Hi everyone, I'm Susan Birch and welcome to another A Health Detective podcast. And today I'm really pleased to be talking with Rick from At Thriving Now. Rick's from North Carolina, enjoying the mountains, I believe, at the moment. We can have a chat about that as well. As you know, I love to bring you new ideas and concepts and am always looking for helpful things that will help you on your health journey and to, sustain lasting change. And Rick works with emotional freedom technique, EFT, and better known as tapping. So I'm really delighted he agreed to come on and have a chat to me about tapping and the benefits it can bring to all of us. So Rick, thanks so much for your time.
I love the fact that tapping is something that I have at my fingertips no matter where I am, no matter what's going on. And whether I'm walking on a trail and maybe I get startled and I want to settle myself quickly, or I'm in a situation where my body is dysregulated and I want something that helps me to ground and calm myself quickly. And you and I both have explored many different things. And I think tapping as part of an emotional toolkit is extremely useful. And of course, at this point, millions of people use tapping around the world. So whereas this was a new thing and a lot of people still have never been exposed to it, it has a deep history now with lots of research and other things, which for those people that want to feel the depth of a practice, tapping, I believe, now has that, whereas it didn't 25 years ago.
Well, I've got a ton of questions here to ask you. I got introduced to tapping quite a few years ago, and being, this staunch Kiwi woman and, all the barriers, it was just woo-woo to me. It's like, oh, I don't do that stuff. I'm all right. I don't need to do that stuff. And then I got reintroduced to it about 2 years ago, and I was on a group call for something I was doing, and we had a EFT trainer come in, and nobody would put their hand up to do a tapping round with her, and I was having a great day and feeling really good. So I thought, how hard can this be? Well, I could not believe emotion. I was blown away, and I was like in a bubbling mess by the end of it. And I was thinking, oh my goodness me. And who would have thought that it could be so powerful? And then of course the lady running the session had to sort of like, take me out of that and bring me back into a state of sort of calm and what have you. So being me, I don't always do the full tapping round, but I do find it really helpful. And, I liked what you said, if you get startled or something, I love doing that. If I go into a situation, I just love doing that and then saying those kind of words to myself and reassuring myself. So anyway, let's start by talking about how you became a practitioner and what got you involved in this.
I, like most people in my culture, were raised to think through things rather than process them, feel them, and be present with them. So if I did something wrong, for example, and I started having a reaction in my body, I would try to think my way through, and that can create, as some people know, that inner critic. You start getting into a dialogue with yourself, which isn't necessarily very nice. We often model the kinds of conversations that are around us. And um, I needed a way to break the loop of worry, a loop of which I inherited, honestly. I come from a line of worriers. but it was eating me up. And I found meditation, and meditation's wonderful. I still meditate. Um, Meditation was a doorway into being aware of what was going on inside of me. And I could use time and consciousness to be able to quiet the noise a bit. But then, you start engaging in your work, right? And you get that email, right? Or the computer doesn't work and loses something that you had been working on.
Yeah,
You click
I know.
save and the error message comes up. And I really needed something that would keep me from throwing the laptop into the creek one more time. Like that was getting expensive. And um, I saw a number of places online that connected this emotional freedom techniques. I love the name. I'm a freedom-oriented person. Ooh, emotional freedom. I want that for me. And I started seeing it related to mystery diseases, and I saw it related to emotional things, and I saw it related to our own self-talk and criticism and worry. And I was like, huh. And I tried it, and it was the strangest thing to acknowledge what was going on in my body. Like, even though I'm worried to death, that was kind of the energy I had. And I was tapping on these points, which we've known about for thousands of years. The points that we use for tapping are some of the easier ones to reach that are also used in acupuncture and acupressure. Um, Humans have naturally been like, oh, I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. We rub this point, right? When we get a shock, our hand goes to the base of our throat, which you'd think if it's protection, it would go to cover our throat, but it goes to the base of our throat. And two of the points that we use are right here. They're connected. We've known for a long time that they're connected to the adrenals and anxiety and that spike of what's going on, what's happening, kind of energy. And so it all started to make sense. I started using it myself. I was a massage therapist also at the time. I was mostly working with people with trauma and mystery diseases. And I just started using tapping with them before a session. And one of the things I noticed is that they were more at ease. They felt more themselves. There was less anxiety, nervousness, holding, bracing. And that's the way that they would describe how they felt. And palpably, you could tell that, um, like somebody who had had trauma, and we tapped on the trauma, the rib cage, which had been a constant source of pain and stiffness and rigidity for them ever since a car accident 20 years earlier, softened. I mean, you could literally push on their ribs. That caught my attention. And I wanted to work with trauma. I have a trauma history in my teenage years. I think that affected my health. I know it affected my health. And so I started integrating tapping with body work. I started using it myself. I started teaching it to, I used to teach parents how to do baby massage. And I taught baby massage and tapping. And new parents really loved it. They would find that it would help them. And it just continued. And I took the work that I had done with body work and started applying it in the tapping community. And because I had such a body-centered approach, um, I started working with the creator of tapping, Gary Craig, started working with thought leaders like Carol Look, um, Pat Carrington, and others, and exploring how to keep it simple and make it accessible for people easily, freely. I'm also a technologist, so my website over the last 20 years, even just a couple of the exercises have had over a million downloads. And that feels to me like what I want in the world, is that people can be self-empowered.
Mhm.
And as you noted in what brought you in, tapping can be used ourselves, and it can be used in a session that's a safe container. When you're feeling pretty good, it's like, oh, I can actually process some of this deeper stuff. If we're not feeling pretty good, we keep a lid on it. That's part of our survival mechanism. I can't talk about that. I can't touch that. I can't think about that externally. So people that can create a safe container, tapping is great. A lot of therapists love it because it helps them process what they're hearing, keeps them regulated, helps the client regulate, processes through the energy. And that's that is what I'd like to see more of in the world, is that we come together to co-create well-being together, um,
And I think,
sharing, exploring.
and it's important that we, bring in all these different modalities, really, that, all these concepts that we can use to, help ourselves and others. Before I get into more of my specific questions, because I really want to talk to you about negative self-talk, can you just explain a little bit about the research behind tapping? Because like me, there's so many things out there, and being a little bit of, having a bit of a scientist background, you sort of tend to sometimes be a bit dismissive of things. But I know tapping has a very strong research background to it. So can you talk a little bit about that, just to reassure the people who are like me and go, too woo-woo for me?
Well, sure. Humans are on a spectrum, and there are people that are experimenters, and there are people that, for them to feel safe and comfortable, they need a certain base of experience, knowledge, age. There are people that are getting on the internet for the first time today, and I'm totally cool with that. Um, I didn't, I, at the time that I got into tapping, the research was you got in a room with 12 people that were suffering with certain things, and you went around and you tapped together, and people self-reported how did they feel afterwards. Um, and you interacted with people, you were experimenting. I believe we haven't even touched the ultimate use of tapping in the healing process. That said, within the community, there are people like David Feinstein, who publishes in traditional journals well-researched studies. There are people like Dr. Peter Stapleton in Australia. Um, I think that for people that want somebody who is solid, grounded, doing actual, she's an actual researcher. She gets groups together for things like weight loss and trauma and other things. And Carol Look has done research for eyesight improvement, and she's done research with veterans and other people that have been involved in trauma. The ACEP community, Association of Comprehensive Energy Psychologists, um, they understand that for adoption, across a broader spectrum of the healing arts and the healing professionals, that there's a quality of solidness and experiments that show the strengths and limitations. Um, what you see is that if you add tapping to a standard type of behavioral change or intervention, that it becomes more effective. And my theory on that, and it's one that's shared, is that for every change that a human makes, there's an emotional component, there's an energetic component. If I reduce my sugar, my biochemistry changes. If my biochemistry changes, my thought and my emotions change with it. This is I I have a lot of people in my family that have done the dieting yo-yo. And one of the things that happens is that food, for example, has a medicinal quality. And ice cream, like in my lineage, ice cream has medicinal properties when you feel a certain way. Uh, right. So, like, we kind of know that. And the leaders like Carol Look said, if we take away someone's medicine, but we don't give them something else to be with the feelings that are definitely, absolutely, positively going to arise. There's so much evidence, right, that people eat emotionally. That what happens is that people can use willpower, and that's like pulling a rubber band back, back, back. At some point, you're tired and you snap. And I think that's more accurate energetically than yo-yo. Um, my mother would work, 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 work to get her weight down, but then she would hit this trauma line. And a lot of people, I have a theory, we haven't proved it biochemically, but I believe that if you eat medicinally for emotions and trauma that comes up, that it's a bit like having garlic infused olive oil. Once the garlic has infused the olive oil, you can't actually separate it out. You're going to have garlic olive oil. And fat has a way, in me, I notice if I start using that stored energy, guess what comes up? Whatever emotionally was in my world at the time that I gained that that weight. And tapping will be like you suddenly get a wave of grief. Do people eat ice cream and chips when they feel grief? Yeah, some. And if I'm going out for a beautiful walk in the woods, to use my energy and to feel vital and vibrant, but then that wave of grief comes up, what do? Well, I can tap my body. I can pause, I can go to the side of the road and in a safe place and tap on the feelings of grief, ask my body what it's connected to. And suddenly now I'm not veering off to go to the ice cream store. This is what we notice. Now you asked me about research. Well, we notice things like that. And then someone like Dr. Stapleton does a study where they have the interviews pre, during, and post, and they do the analysis and they look at the effectiveness. And that's what we see. For stress relief, we can measure cortisol and other things. And so there are researchers that do that work. And the thing for me is what does an individual notice? What kind of support do they need emotionally? If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you may have a great therapist, but you're probably not going to be talking to them by phone unless you find one in the right time zone.
I think that's a really relevant point too. So with the people that I work with people who have some, quite comprehensive, complex health issues, and also a lot of people with the same issues who really want to lose weight, or people who just want to lose weight as their goal. And in the sort of 40 years I've been, working in this industry, it struck me that we try and punish ourselves into achieving these goals. It's always about punishment. And, and I notice when people come and see me, especially men who've been sent by their wives, and they're like, oh, do I have to eat lettuce leaves? And it's that whole concept of health and well-being being a punishment, hard, difficult, and how can I get back to having the ice cream and the chocolate again when I feel like it?
Right.
And so I've been describing tapping to people as a way of actually learning to love and cherish and value and respect your body into health, rather than punish it and make it suffer into health. And that, for me, tapping opened a world of, I can do this because I can treat my body this way, because my body deserves to be treated this way. And I love and honor and respect my body. And so therefore, when I feed it, I'm going to feed it these really good things that it needs that bring me back to health. I'm not eating them out of, being forced to, and the nutritionist told me I have to, and I'm resenting it. And, I want to have a cheat day as quickly as I can.
Yeah, so people that punish themselves into weight loss, interestingly, my view is that their energy and their biochemistry gets used to the energy of punishment. Well, what better way to continue the punishment once you hit your goal than to gain the weight back? And so punishment is a cycle. It's and that's one of the areas where I in the clients that I've worked with, I believe tapping, by the way it's structured, it opens up an opportunity for a real and authentic interruption of the pattern. So for example, if I'm coming to make if I'm feeling forced to make a health change, and my tapping, for those that are not familiar, we have what's called a setup statement. And I love the setup statement because you get to be real with how you feel. Like, even though I'm being tortured and punished just because I'm overweight, that's stating how you might feel. Like, even though I hate this, I don't want to do it. I don't want to die either. And I accept where I am and how I feel. So notice what we did. We stated something that might be true inside of someone. Instead of holding it in and saying, oh, bucking down and doing it, what tapping gives it is a voice, but also a direction. Like, and I accept where I am and how I feel. Acceptance is very different than punishment. If I feel punished, but I move even a half a step in the direction of acceptance, wow. Even though I'm being punished and I don't want to do this, I actually want to be strong and healthy enough to play with my kids, grandkids, have sex, whatever it is. Like, I actually want those other things. And notice again, it's acknowledging a churned up feeling, a feeling of resistance, rebellion, and giving it a direction. People also notice that, even though I am headed to the donut store and nothing is going to stop me, I accept that right this minute I need a donut, and that's just the way it is. Now, notice that how different that energy is than I can't believe I'm going to the donut store. I hate that I'm going to get a donut. I hate that I'm doing this to myself again. It acknowledges that, hey, this is still my medicine. And what that has shown to do, whether it's before or after, even though I can't believe I ate that whole pint of ice cream again, I deeply and completely accept myself anyway. And you put some energy in that direction. Probably not going to be completely true, but notice the energy pathway. We're really changing how our body mind reacts. We're giving a direction, a different choice. And we know from research that people that are stuck in certain behaviors, there's something called the default mode network. It's a big part of the brain. It means, like, what do I do? Like, which hand do you brush your teeth with? You don't think about that. Um, uh, there are so many things that are part of our default, and they sort of have to be. But in order to make a behavioral change, what we notice is that in MRIs, functional MRIs, and other things, that tapping seems to open up options. That's one of the energetic things that it does by using these statements that acknowledge kind of what's my default and how would I like to be? What's the direction I'm heading in? And that's powerful. And we're seeing that across all populations. Now, some people don't resonate with it, and that's fine. Like, as you said, you're part of your role here is to bring possibilities to people. And me as an emotional freedom coach, I love that this is available. I like that even when people are exposed to the idea of an affirmation, like, I love my body, even though it's bullshit that I love my body. I actually hate my body right now. I don't like it at all. I wish I could just get away from it, trade it in, get a new one, take it to be detailed, liposuction, whatever. We're in it till death do us part. And maybe I can give it a little bit different attention right here, right now. Do you notice how I did that? When
I
people are just
really,
exposed to that, yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's a great way for those of affirmations did not work for me until I found tapping, where the affirmation could start with, even though I actually don't love my body right now, I'm open to loving my body someday, somehow. That's different than I love my body, and your detector goes off and goes,
Just like, oh,
no, you don't. No, we don't. You got to be kidding. Why would we do that? we Our body hates us, our body punishes us. Um, our body didn't protect us. All the things that end up in our tissues. Um,
mm. Yeah, and I think that's really interesting what you were saying about um, how those negative emotions get stored as we're storing the body fat, we're kind of storing those same negative emotions. I think that's quite profound, actually. I have to ponder on that a bit further. Mm.
People that primarily touch the body and feel the body often were um, very aware of that there would be areas on the body that would be much colder. They're literally dissociated enough through trauma being stored there that they're not getting the same blood flow as the other hip or other parts of the body. We and as you do work to move energy and heal the trauma, whether it's through body somatics, of which tapping is, I think, a body somatic approach, body mind approach, um, they would notice that those types of imbalances would clear. When you ask people, like, what's in that arthritic joint? Rage, sometimes. Sometimes it's a different emotion. But when we tune into our body, especially when it flares up, and you ask a simple question, well, if there was an emotion in your descending colon, what might it be? I'm so frustrated. And, when someone tunes into their body and gets that information, the healing energy's already started, whether you tap or not. You're already changing the relationship between you and you by asking that question. And that's a part of tapping is like, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? I'm anxious. I'm thinking I'm anxious. Well, how do I know? What part oh, I've got this feeling in my throat. Where? Oh, base of my throat. Even though I'm anxious in the base of my throat, I, am open to unwinding, releasing, uh, feeling some relief, inviting my body to let me know what it needs. You can use any of the kinds of affirmations, beautiful, body-centered, loving. Um, you and you can be profane, can be angry, even though I've got I'm rage in my spleen and I just want to vent it and burn the couch. Um, yeah, I acknowledge and respect that I have a lot of deep feelings. Whoa, that's different.
Because that's one of the things, I struggle with meditation and things like that. And I think partly because I like movement and I like doing things that are in motion, and then of course there's the negative self-talk about, well, what's wrong with you? Why can't you sit there and breathe and think no thoughts? But I think there's a lot of people like me in the world who feel that way.
Even though I'm not a sitter and
Yeah.
I like to unwind my energy through movement, I deeply and completely
Yeah.
accept who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there are lots of people that again, as we expose options, like there are people that the kind of self-dialogue that tapping includes is just not right for them. They It's not the way that their energy field works. But if you have them, if there's a drum circle and they start to let their body move, it takes 10 years off of their face. They start glowing. And so for them, a drumming kind of, and for other people, drums are not the vibe. They want to be lyrical. They want to be in the like flow and grace is what helps them connect. And tapping can be done rhythmically. It can be done. There are people that touch the points and let their body move. Um, and I'm devoted to exploring and reminding people that um, how it looks for someone else is not necessarily going to be what's right. Your yes, right then, and it can change over time too. Um,
Well, and I think, again, for me personally, so again, not for what anybody else would necessarily get out of it, but I like the fact that I can be angry, I can say negative statements, I can be like so mad, which if you're trying to do meditation, that doesn't feel appropriate. You're supposed to be like trying to make yourself be calm and you're not actually feeling calm. So I have found tapping, I would say, out of all the different things I've tried and explored and looked at, I'd say I've found tapping to be something that I personally highly recommend that people give a go anyway. So can you walk us through a session? You've already done a little bit of that. You've shown us, that we have these different points, and you've talked about the opening statement. Can you sort of just explain a little bit more about what goes on, especially in what do you call them, a session where you're being led by a practitioner rather than doing it yourself?
Sure. Um, whether it's being led by a practitioner or you're doing it yourself, there's a tuning in. What am I noticing? And so we can all do that as you feel into your body. What's a sensation that gets your attention? And so by tuning in that way, you're using your body's intelligence to kind of direct where we're going. So let's say that you got some stiffness in your neck, and as you tune into your neck, you notice that like this part of your body, um, there's a fancy name for it, sternocleidomastoid, but it's like right here, there's something going on there. a very powerful, simple question is, if there was an emotion there, if there was an emotion there, it's either leaving room for there not to be. What might it be? And for some of us, like touching it and closing our eyes, and other people just get it like as a word or a vision. If your answer is, I don't know, well, guess. And often what you notice, and this is where a practitioner can help, is that by inviting you to not know the answer, Mr. Perfectionist, but to guess, um, you often get something that is a great doorway, whether it's provably true or not, is less important than it's something that you're getting from your body. So for me, it's annoyance. Um, and then we often give it a number. It's not required, but it's often useful when you're getting started. Like, okay, how much annoyance is there? A 6 for me right now. It's not anything to do with what's happening between you and I just by tuning into annoyance, I start getting little bits. Now, for some people, they may get little bits from their childhood. They might get little bits from earlier in that day. They may be like annoyance with their diet, their life, their body, whatever. And then we tap on the side of the hand. It's been called the karate chop, but they're starting to change the name just to the side of the hand. And we tap gently, about like if you were drumming your fingers on a desk. And even though I have this annoyance in my neck right there, I accept my neck anyway. Now that's one way of saying it. Pretty simple. I accept my neck anyway. And then you notice what comes up. Even though I'm really annoyed with my neck because it's hurting me right now, still annoyance. I accept where I am and how I feel. Another variation. Most practitioners will vary it. Some are teaching a more mechanical formula. My brain doesn't work that way. Like I, I'm where I am on the spectrum of improvisation is I'm more of an improv person. And then I might start tapping the other points. This annoyance in my neck. This annoyance in my neck. My neck is so annoyed. And I'm annoyed with my neck for being annoyed. I'm annoyed. My neck is annoyed. Of course I'm annoyed. That was very annoying. And notice sometimes when like I'll notice when someone lands on something and we'll pause there. And I think again, that's where having another human that you're co-regulating with who's noticing, like, oh yeah, I can see your face change. Yeah, it was, of course it was annoying. Notice what that did. It gave me permission to be annoyed at something that really is annoying. It's like, there's no way to sugarcoat this. There's no nice affirmation like, no, that was annoying. Yeah, of course I was annoyed. And I invite my neck to let that go now. Notice there's an invitation to the body, and I appreciate that I'm able to notice what's happening in my body, even if it's annoying. Now, even just saying that, this has gone from a 6 to a 2, but there's now a knot in my shoulder that I notice. We're tapping on meridian points. And for people that have looked at that, they go, oh yeah, they're like rivers of energy that are all that connect and flow. They touch all aspects of us. If you've never seen that, it's fascinating to look at a meridian chart not to study it and see the detail, but like, oh, just as we know that there are capillaries and there's arteries and veins and other things that carry our blood. We have lymphatic vessels and nodes and things. They're starting to have technology that actually shows the meridian points that have been mapped throughout history. Thousands of years, we've known that certain points that we hold, touch, rub, um, some cultures even tattoo points to help balance someone's energy around it. But here we tap, beginning of the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose. The chin is about midpoint. The collarbone points are down in the soft tissue. I love these. They're great for bubbling anxieties and kind of rising feelings. They help you ground. The underarm points about mid bra line for women that wear bras or humans that wear bras. Um, and you go with it. Now, one round can change the trend. Just like if you're heading off the cliff and you just turn a few degrees, now you're on the road and you're driving. Um, Sometimes what comes up is a bigger deal. And I believe that humans were meant to heal our trauma in safe, respectful containers. Um, some people can create that for themselves through their spiritual practices, through their awareness of the non-physical, through, hey, the only safe place is when I'm alone. That's fine. There are techniques with tapping to do that. And as you experience too, I'm sure in your work, people when they're tapping will start saying things that are just right at that right moment for them to get out of their system. And when they're around somebody else who's also tapping and processing the energy of it, um, I've I've yet to see any other modality where there's such a clear mutual benefit and that um, it's less likely for the person who's processing trauma to be as worried about taking care of their their therapist, their coach, their friend. And that creates a very powerful container. Um, and that's where we can go to things that um, and move through them unrushed with a lot of presence and then come back and feel the relief. We become strong. We know from studies of animals and humans that a trauma that is still frozen in our body weakens and depletes our energy and our life force and our well-being. A trauma that has been healed makes us stronger. It is a fascinating thing. You see that with animals that you see that with humans. A lot of people, and we're designed to, we're humans are pretty easily traumatized um, in little t ways and big T ways. Uh, and to to have something that was scary and then come into and I'm okay. There you can harvest the wisdom. And I'm not going to do that again. Or that type of person is really not good for me. I know what they smell like now. I am not going to be with that kind of narcissist. Um, like, oh, yeah, I was picking up on body no, and I ignored it. I ignored it because I wasn't taught to listen to my body's intuition. We notice that people that actually are gifted in um, intuition and body guidance, empathy, sensitivity, when you use tapping to clear some of the traumas, what they end up activating in a very fresh way their own body guidance. Their 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 sense of themselves shifts, but also the information that they get from others isn't banging against trauma all the time. You know, a person that was harmed by a particular type of person, um, anytime they run into a similar energy, their body may feel very anxious in a way that may only be partially related to what this person is or does. Um, what I notice is that using tapping on those, like, oh, even though I don't know why I don't trust that person, it's okay. My body does not trust that person. That's, even though they tell me I should trust Uncle so and so or my boss or this person, I actually don't. And I honor and respect my body's guidance. That's where people talk themselves out of their own guidance because that's what we're taught. Like, no, you have to do that. You have to sit in school to learn. What do you mean you want to dance in the back of the class in the middle of your math test because that'll give you a better, that a better grounded score? You can't do that. Well, I would have been a lot better if I could have done stuff like that.
Mhm.
But you're talked out of it, which means that you're talked out of listening to your deep guidance, and tapping can help bring that back.
And that becomes a habit, doesn't it? And it becomes a habit just as much as the negative self-talk on the loop becomes a habit, or you know, just these ingrained ways we think, and we can behave in a different way for a very short period of time, but then that ingrained thinking comes back and sort of overwhelms the system again.
Right. And that's where, if it's coming back, getting clearer about how you want to be, what would be a good look for you. Um, Even though I react this way, what I'd like to do is take a pause or give myself some space. So if you react to like you get really defensive, well, even though I really get defensive, when that type of thing comes at me, what I'd like to do is say, hey, I'm going to take a pause and come back. You're starting to build the pathway where not only your primitive brain, which is reactive, but your hearty response is healthy and contributes to your thriving.
And so you're rewiring neural pathways, making all those brain changes, those new neural connections.
Yeah, if we were just an animal interested in survival, none of us would be on Zoom talking about stuff like this. We want to thrive. I believe about 10% of our energy is essential survival energy, but sometimes with trauma, about 90% can be around survival and threat and fear and doubt and self-judgment and punishment and the like. And I've noticed that incorporating something like tapping means that there's more space for your thriving and less need. We have to tend to our survival. That's essential, but it starts to take its right place. Um, and it does change patterns. This is weird. This is really weird, but it's also how people have comforted themselves. Like the top of the head point. If you think of somebody like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Oh, well, we cover our eyes, we cover these points to protect our own guidance system. You know, we rub the side of our eye. The thinker is, doing things like this. Why? Because this taps into deeper knowledge. Um, and if we're like, no, no way, forget it, like the hands under the armpits,
Yeah.
the you don't have to, you see it and like that's not a yes for this guy or gal, you know. Well, by stimulating these points, what we're saying is, if that's true here, if I have a no, please let me be aware of it rather than suppress it. It actually taps you into Wow, those are really sore. I wonder what my no is. Um,
Mm. Mm. I'm feeling self-conscious now because I'm sitting there doing all these things while you're talking.
no, I do too. I like my kids, they know me as a tapper. Um,
Mm.
and I was thinking about before once you've got a different energetic pattern that's predominant, then you probably won't have to tap on it very often unless it's kind of off kilter. In the
Mm.
same way that if you have a guitar that stays in tune most of the time, you'll notice when one of the strings are like, oh no, that's not the right tone, you'll tweak it up. A little tapping is like retuning it.
Mm.
Um, and then you're in harmony with your own systems. Um, I think that's for me, not just the promise of tapping, but what our community is focused on, and the freedom to feel what we feel, to move it in healthy ways that are nonviolent toward others, but clear, um, not just healthy boundaries, but profound agreements that allow us to work together and co-create together. If people are traumatized, they're always bumping up against boundaries. Like, oh no, that's a no, no, no. Well, what's my yes? Tapping can help you get to your yes to yes to yes to yes. Uh, how? Even though that's not a yes for me, and I don't know what my yes is, I'm I'm inviting my body to let my body, mind, and spirit to let me know. You're inviting, and by practicing that, um, I've been so blessed to watch people get their clarity. And when people get their actual clarity, um, instead of losing weight, they become aware of how they want to use that stored energy. Because
Mm.
losing weight is the predominant energy. I don't want to lose my keys. I don't want to lose my weight, but I would love to use it. Would be like, I've got this pantry and it's overflowing. I don't need that much stuff. What do I want to cook up for me and the people I love? When I go out to walk, if I were doing it to lose weight, you would not be able to drag my butt. I would be like one of those dogs that just, you're dragging it. I don't do it for that. But it was my guidance system when I like, even though I feel like I hate losing weight, I hate that. What do I really want? I want to be vital. I want to be vibrant. I want to use my weight to explore. I want to use my energy for things that support all of my well-being. And those are the people I care about. I want to feel what it's like to move my body at its range of motion and with power and grace and other things. These are things that my body says, yeah, that's what I want. And then
Mm.
it's like, even though I'm so stiff and I just want to sit on the ground, actually, I want to feel some flow right now. And so maybe I'm not going to go walk in the woods, but I'm going to rub against the floor, tap, tap, tap. And then you can feel the pressure to conform, which isn't freedom,
Mm.
move toward what do I freely choose that would be delicious, wonderful, nourishing, replenishing, recalibrating for me, an authentic yes in my body.
That that's really interesting because what I come up against with a lot of my clients, and particularly those who want to lose weight, is I I often feel they want to lose weight out of an obligation, out of some sort of pressure they feel that if they could lose some weight, they could love themselves a bit
Yeah.
more. And so they come and then they want you to tell them what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat. But they don't really want you to tell them what to do because then they've lost control. So they're fighting all these demons inside of themselves. I don't give out diet plans because nobody ever follows them, because if you say eat this for breakfast, they'll just feel like eating something else tomorrow. And that's all about coming back to having that self-control, or they can force themselves with that willpower that you talked about earlier to do it for a few weeks or a couple of months, and then they're right back to where they started again. So I loved how you described that, and the opportunity that that gives people to approach this in a very, very different way.
Yeah, I am, my focus is on thriving.
Yeah.
And so if somebody says, I want to lose weight, I'll say, well, I don't do that. Um, that may be a byproduct of you being more in your body, enjoying what your body can do, building its vitality, building its options, building its mobility and resilience, and all those other things. I know and believe, and certainly believe at a level of knowing that there's an intelligence about how much stored resource is good and useful for an individual's body. And that's not usually a number on the scale, but it's palpable when people, and it fluctuates for people during the seasons and the like. But we can look at, well, where don't you feel free with food? Is there a food that feels like it's got you by your psyche? Like if they took it away, you'd you'd be devastated or you'd go to war. And that's an interesting place to start, because um, that's often the emotions that hold patterns in place. Like, how would you feel? I would feel deprived. I would feel a sense of rebellion. Unless you address the rebellion, and there are many techniques for addressing rebellion so that people are like, no, I refuse it. There's something called refusal tapping. I refuse to give up that. You can't make me. I can't make me. I refuse to give this up. I have a audio called No, You Can't Make Me, and it's one of the popular ones because it's not trying to force someone to do something. It's acknowledging the rebellion that is a natural defense mechanism of every single freedom kin I know. We rebel if we're told what to do or feel pressured or obligated. There's a natural rebellion. Tapping acknowledges that and then says, okay, well, and that's true. And what is it that what really matters to you? Well,
Right.
I actually don't feel all that good. I feel sluggish. I feel like I want to be able to move my body and enjoy it more. I want to, etc. And that's and this is the layer that I'm grateful to your listeners and to you that we're looking at, is that we can feel the pain of I need to lose weight, which is sort of the shortcut, or I hate my body, or um, I'm unworthy. And those, if somebody feels they're unworthy and they claw their way up the ladder of success, they may be not have an extra ounce on them, but energetically they can feel very heavy, very strained, very fragile, very burdened. So it's not even about the weight. It's not actually about the weight as much as it is about the energy that drives in an unfree way through obligation or feeling I have to, and the energy that we're still carrying around that we'd like to shift.
Mm.
Tapping is, at this point, I'm an engineer and scientist. I'm very practical. I look for useful concept, skills, practices, and the like. And for me, and the work that I do with freedom-oriented people, tapping touches the core part of it. As as part of an ecosystem that includes movement and artistry and being what matters emotionally, doing work that matters to our sense of what we want to see more of in our life in the world. Tapping applies in all of those parts of the journey as a useful tool that we have at our fingertips that can be used very effectively between two friends, between a person and a very skilled trauma professional. There are even nurses that in trauma wards will are aware of the points and will sometimes apply pressure to help bring somebody out of, like, they're heading toward shock. I've used this with accidents, used it with kids soccer. I've used it like even just tapping this point can take someone from going into shock to bringing them back into their body. I'm not suggesting that people just go out there and do that willy-nilly, but if you are a skilled person in emergency situations, these points are also useful if somebody is overwhelmed by emotion, if used with consent.
One of my clients is a teacher or was a teacher, and she uses it with, she teaches other teachers how to use tapping and, to help kids. And I think, it's a wonderful tool for my grandchildren to learn while they're really young, that self-regulation is just, quite amazing, really.
Yeah.
So,
anything else?
No, that was a lot. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? I'll make sure I put your website and all your links. You've got some amazing resources on your website. So if you can just tell people where they can find you, that would be great.
Sure. I'm at Thriving Now, THRIVINGNOW.com. If you put /tapping there, there's a free course. When you sign up for the free course, I'll send you an email that my inbox is open. I'm Rick at thrivingnow.com. I'm the only one who reads those emails, and I intentionally am, gear my work so that I'm available to be able to respond and be with people as part of this journey. I have a group coaching program that's very affordable at thrivingnow.com/circle. And so, the guide is free, and you can give it to friends, you can give it to clients, you can print it out. I've had people take it to teen pregnancy camps, and hand out the guide, and they all tap together on all the feelings that are part of being a teen and a mother. So you're free to use the tapping diagrams that are part of it for yourself and to share with others too.
Yeah, so I share your website and your guide with my clients. So I appreciate having that resource available. And thank you so much. That was such, I know it was a big long effort for you, but that was such an excellent explanation, and I think it'll give people a lot deeper insights into the emotional freedom technique than that you can perhaps just get off a quick 2 YouTube video or something. So thank you so much
for being able to go deep. So thank you very much.